Goldfinger Group is live. And then it's too late.
Oh,
We're live. Okay. Let us know if there's any questions or comments in the next.
I have a question.
Yes.
What are we talking about today?
Oh, good question. Okay. Today we're going to be talking about construction, all things construction. We've been doing a lot of construction. Been saying the word construction a lot.
Probably what, like on rehab units, we're probably renovating somewhere in the realm of like 50, 60, and then we're doing ground up ADUs, another 20. So
It's a lot of units.
It's a lot. I think we have like $5 million of construction going on right now.
Spread out over different projects, right? So it's like sometimes you have, guys or gals who go out and buy a 100-unit building and you're renovating the whole thing at once, which is awesome. Our projects are spread out over multiple properties throughout the city, so it makes it definitely more challenging. And there's been a lot that we've done over the last couple of years, and a lot that we continue to learn, and we keep leveling up. So going from basic renovations, basic remodel, unit turns, to adding bedrooms, adding bathrooms, reconfiguring floor plans, getting more invasive with the renovations, and now going into ground up, building out a couple of ADUs, and then next step, probably ground up construction.
Exactly. And it's multi-phase, right? Like when we go to buy a building, we think, okay, what's going to be our construction process here, right? Are we going to add the bedrooms, move the kitchens? Are we going to build ADUs? Are we going to add AC and washer dryer? So when we're in our due diligence phase, or when we're underwriting a deal and walking the property before we've been under contract, we're deciding, well, what exactly is going to be our construction plan for the property? And it's so area specific, because whether you build in South LA or you build by Venice, the cost is relatively the same. The cost of wood and copper doesn't change where you are. So that's number one. Number two is once we're under construction, buying the property and we're the owners, now we're finding the contractors to do the job. Like once we've established, okay, now we're the owner, here's our plan, who's going to do the work, and what's the cost going to be, what are the timelines, and then the third is actually doing the construction and completing the construction. So I think we're going to talk more about the latter, because we've talked a lot about how we establish value in properties, what we look for in micro locations, which kind of dictates, okay, well, this is our tenant base and this is what this tenant base wants. So we've talked a lot about that. I think today we want to talk about how do we select contractors, what's that process before construction and then during construction.
Right, so in terms of selecting a contractor, there's a bunch of different things to look at. And to be completely transparent, when I first got into the business, I didn't know the difference between one contractor and another. I thought, all right, he's a contractor, he can do the job. But what contracting is it can be very specific. And there are certain people who specialize in doing maintenance and turning over units, cosmetic work, and then there's other people that specialize in replacing foundations. There's contractors who are more invasive. There's contractors that specialize in doing ground up construction. What we do on the front end in terms of vetting contractors is looking at past projects that they've done, so looking at previous work, getting multiple references, understanding what their specialty is, what they're good at, what they're not good at, and making sure that they're the right fit for the project. So you don't want to pick, just like you don't want to go to a head doctor for a problem with your legs, right? So it's that specific when you're choosing a contractor, making sure that they're the right fit for the job.
Exactly, and a lot of it too, and I think this has been one of our biggest principles that we've preached a lot, is it's all about working with the right people. So are they aligned with us? Are their values aligned? Or do they have a common goal? Are they going to be transparent and communicative and honest about what's happening in the process? So who they are too, aside from the work, I think they have to meet that criteria. This is somebody we want to do business with.
Yeah, we've all heard the horror stories of dealing with contractors that have not done the right things and in terms of the work that they've done, and stealing money. Let's just call it what it is, right? So it's like we've all heard the horror stories. So how do we make these judgment calls, right? So that's something that's part of why people trust us with their funds, is to make the right judgment calls in terms of who to work with, making those strategic decisions in terms of who's the right person for the job, not just professionally, but also for relationship and ethically. And there's there's things that we do in terms of, like you said, aligning the interest between the contractor and the project. One of them is we've had our contractors invest in the deals, act as investors, so they have what's called skin in the game. They have a vested interest in the investment, so not only are they going to make money off of the construction project, but they're going to make money off of the investment. So if there's ways that they can add value to the investment that maybe we're not seeing, or there's ways that they can save money on the construction, they're going to let us know, because hey, at the end of the day, they're going to get a payday based on the building's performance.
Exactly. And so I think the three things, that we look for in a contractor is, aside from who they are and having an alignment, is, what's going to be their cost. That's what everybody looks at preemptively, is like, okay, what's the cost? But beyond that is the timeline to finish, which is very important. I think we'll talk a little bit about that, and the quality of work. They could be cheap and they can get it done, but if their quality sucks, then what's the point? Then you're spending so much money down the road, replacing, repairing, redoing all the work that they messed up on the front end. So those are I think the three big boxes that we look at when selecting a contractor.
Yeah, so in terms of the timeline, there's certain things that are within the contractor's control and certain things that are not within their control. What's not within their control is a lot of the matters dealing with obtaining permits and getting the project RTI ready to issue the permits. And so we typically will set up our contracts, our agreements with the contractors. We'll stipulate dates that we'll give the contractor, depending on the scope of work, we'll set a date. Hey, from the beginning, from when we sign the contract, you're going to have a set period of time to get the permits in place, to get the project RTI, or first to get the plans submitted, right? To first draw up the plans of what we're going to be doing, and then get those plans submitted, then get them RTI, ready to issue the permits, and then once we have the permits in place, we have a certain period of time to get the project completed. And at each one of these milestones, we put in what's called a per diem. So the contractor, if they don't get that specific task done within that time period, they start paying us. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to recoup all of the costs of pulling the property. It's really like you said, about alignment, about there being a monetary alignment and a sense of urgency to get the projects done. Which you always, I think you said sense of urgency like 20 times.
My phrase of the week. Yeah. And I two projects that kind of depict this is we have a property in Mar Vista. We submitted ADUs, so we were doing building renovations, and then when the state came out with their ADU laws, we were like, well, cool, we can build 2 ADUs on the property. So we started that process. It was part of our soft story earthquake retrofitting on the parking. Well, we were supposed to have the plans November 2020, and we were getting everything set up. We put up the fencing. We noticed the tenants, hey, we're going to be doing this work, and then the city says, well, it's actually going to be another month, and then it's going to be another month. So we didn't hold it to the architect and the contractor because it was the city who was saying, well, we don't want to approve it because we may change this, we may change that, and it was out of our control and it was out of the contractor and architect's control. And then another one actually happened today. We were supposed to start tiling bathrooms, and the city was supposed to do a pre-inspection on some of the work done, the hot mops and some other boring stuff, and well, the inspector just canceled the inspection. Just I was talking to the contractor this morning, he goes, yeah, out of the blue, the guy just said, hey, I can't make it today.
I think it had to do with the fact that you thought maybe it's going to rain, so you didn't want to show up. There's these relationships that we have, right? So there's a sense of reasonableness, yes. Right? And so when we set a date, it doesn't mean that we're not going to give an extension to the contractor if there's circumstances that warrant an extension, like what you're talking about, an inspector not showing up when they're supposed to. So there are dates, but then sometimes we'll work with the contractor again because we have a working relationship, and we'll say, hey, we all said it was going to be done by the 10th of the month. But because the inspector didn't show up, we're going to push it to the 14th or whatever that is. So we try to be reasonable with people that are reasonable with us. That's the name of the game.
Exactly. So we have timelines. I think cost is a big one too. And what I see affecting cost mostly right now is that it's really hard and we have open conversation with our contractors, but we've heard from everybody, finding quality labor that's priced right is almost impossible right now. And we'll show up to a property and there'll be 4 or 5 guys working. We're like, how come there's not more guys? And he's like, well, I brought these guys in, but they couldn't do the job right, but they fit the budget. And then if I want these other guys, well, these other guys don't want to work right now because like they're collecting unemployment. So like, well, why should I work if I'm collecting unemployment? So I think quality skilled labor has been hard to come by, especially on cost, and then material too. I mean, material. We saw what was going on in the lumber world about 6 months ago. And then there's a shortage of material. Like just to get appliances, you could put an order in for appliances on a Monday and have them at the end of the week. Now we're hearing like 4 to 6 week lead times.
Yeah. So and that's another really important thing with construction is, and this goes for pretty much everything in our business, is being proactive, staying in front of the ball as opposed to behind it. Because like you said, why wait to order appliances if we know, hey, the project's going to be done in a couple of weeks? Why wait till that point? We should have ordered it 2 months before, right? As long as we have a place to store them. So staying ahead and being proactive as opposed to reactive is the name of the game.
And I think also, this is a question you've been asking every contractor is, what issues do you foresee coming up on the property, whether it's today, tomorrow, or in 3 months? And how can we do our best job to prevent those problems or be ahead of the problems? And that's huge right now, especially because things are taking so much longer, and because of material, because the city's so backed up, for whatever reason, it's how can we stay proactive from a scheduling perspective, but also from a problem perspective.
Yeah, I think your phrase is sense of urgency, and my phrase would be best case, worst case. And so every time we're on the call with a contractor, I say, what is the best case that we're going to get this job? What is the timeline? Best case and worst case scenario. And they'll say, well, the best case is we'll get it done in 5 weeks, and the worst case is 12 weeks. And I'll say, okay, let's look at the 12-week scenario, the worst case scenario, and let's figure out what are the reasons why it would happen in 12 weeks versus 5. And of those reasons, what are things that we can work on and that we can get in front of and do whatever we can. We had an issue with the housing department, right? And there was, like, when you need to get something done, you figure out a way to get it done. We had an issue with the housing department. We needed to change an address on file with the city. Everyone said it's going to take, 6 weeks to get done. I made a few phone calls, got in touch with someone at the housing department, and on the spot, he was able to make the address change, get it done. Because there was a sense of urgency. And I said, okay, I'm just going to call until I find someone who knows someone, because ultimately at the city, it's a matter of, click this, click that. But if you don't know someone, then you're going to wait the 6 weeks, right? And
or if you're not proactive about it, if you're not like, hey, I can find a solution. And the same thing happened on the permits that we were pulling in Venice. It was like, oh, well, we're waiting on the city, and we're waiting on the city. And I think a month went by, and I talked to the architect, and I'm like, well, okay, we're waiting on the city, but who exactly are we waiting on?
That's right.
And obviously there was a lapse in communication between the departments in the city of where the permits were dropped off, who reviewed it first, and then who it got passed along to. And I was like, well, let's figure out why there was this miscommunication or lack of communication and get ahead of it, because the longer we wait and sit, the higher likelihood that nothing's ever going to happen.
So we just keep digging and digging and trying to get to the source, get to the reason, and not take answers that don't sit well with us. We do our best to really get to the bottom of them, right? To really understand the truth of the matter, what's going on, and what we can do to expedite things, because time is money. It really is.
And over the past probably 18 months, we've completed a handful of projects, 9 units in Pico Union. We just finished 8 units in Mid-City that we toured last week. We just started leasing those. We just leased up 4 units in Mar Vista. We're getting ready to finish construction in Beverly Grove, in Venice. So we're really learning. We did, the 7 unit in Palms that we toured. So we're really learning as we do this as well, of like, what mistakes are we making and how can we be better, and not rely on anybody else to pick up where we can be picking up, or picking up for them too. So
it's no one's going to do it because it doesn't matter enough, right? When you have contractors are so busy, there's a labor shortage, and people are yelling at them to get their workers to their site. They're not going to come to our site unless we're on top of it. So that's the truth of the matter, is no one's going to do it unless we do, and that's what we're here to do.
Exactly. So that's a little bit of construction behind the scenes. I don't know if there's any questions. Let me ask Cole.
Yeah, I'll just sit here by myself.
Any questions?
No questions.
I guess you covered it all.
We did such a good job.
too good of a job. But yeah, I think we have another $11 million of assets under contract.
Yeah.
So we're buying, like we said, we're doing about 70 units of construction, both brand new construction, ground up ADUs, rehab. So we're staying busy, we're staying active. I'll steer your line. If you have deals for us, call this guy, 323-873-9332.
Yeah.
I only know it because I dial you about 17 times a day.
You should really start saving me in the phone. You don't have to do it manually.
Or
Maxx like one of those old school dials.
Exactly. My finger, that's why my hands are so strong. And
that's one of the reasons.
yeah. And if you're looking to invest in LA real estate multifamily, we did tour an office building this week, so we're looking to branch out, expand our business. Let us know. Like I said, we're staying active, we're being strategic, finding the right assets, right locations with an executable business plan.
Until next time, thank you for watching.